Hi class, welcome to our subtracting integers notes. Before we get into the top tips for solving problems like this, let's look at the think about it problem. Team A has 4 points in the class review game. After losing the next round, they lose 8 points. How many points do they now have? Okay, so we know that Team A starts off with 4 points, and then they've lost 8. How do we solve a problem like this? We know that Team A can't have more than 4 points because they've lost more than what they originally have, which means they're going to be in the negatives. Alright? Before we solve this problem, we're going to look at our first tip. Okay? Our first tip, and this is going to sound a little different, but when we are solving integer problems that require quote-unquote subtraction, I don't want you to think of it as subtraction. Instead, I want you to see this symbol as meaning negative. Not subtraction, but as negative. So anytime you see this, whether it's in the form of 4 negative 8, or even if we have other problems, as we'll see in the future, look at this symbol as meaning negative. For these problems, we are simply just adding a negative. Okay? So before I get into the second tip, we're going to work a few problems and then we'll come back to that second tip. Alright? Looking at this problem, when you see 4 and then negative 8, what you're going to do is you're going to simply put a plus right here because we're actually going to be adding 4 to negative 8. Then I'm going to rewrite my problem as 4 plus, in parentheses, negative 8. Okay? From here, I would just solve this problem like I would my adding integers problem. Okay? I'm going to draw a picture. So that means I'm going to have 4 positives. And then I'm going to have 8 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Then I'm going to circle all of my 0 pairs and cancel them out. Remember that a 0 pair is when you have a positive and a negative together. So that's canceled out. That's canceled out. That's canceled out. And that's canceled out. Last but not least, I'm going to count what I have left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my answer is going to be negative 4. So the team ends up with negative 4 points. Alright? Let's jump into some example problems below. For our first problem, we see that we have 5 minus 6, or we could call that 5 negative 6. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Alright? For these types of problems, we are going to put a little plus symbol here because we know that we are going to be adding 5 plus negative 6. Okay? If I have 5 plus negative 6, I'm going to go ahead and draw my picture. 5 positives, because remember, if a number doesn't have a symbol on it, that means that it is naturally assumed to be plus or positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then my negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to circle my 0 pairs and cancel them out. Cancel out, cancel out, cancel out, cancel out, cancel out. What do I have left? I have left 1 negative, so my answer is going to be negative 1. Okay? For the next problem, I have negative 2 minus 4. Okay? Or we could look at that as negative 2, negative 4. So remember, we are just adding a negative. So right here, I'm going to put in my plus. Okay? Then I'm going to rewrite my entire problem. This problem is negative 2 plus negative 4. Keep in mind that I did not replace the negative with a plus. I am simply adding this negative. Okay? This is how we'll solve problems like this. Now I can draw out my picture. I have 2 negatives plus 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I have any zero pairs? No, I don't. So I count what's left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 negatives, so my answer is going to be -6. And I'm actually going to do that in my blue pen. Okay? That's going to be my final answer. Next, all right? Here's where our next tip is going to come in. If you look and see, we have 6, and then we have a negative and another negative. Here's our next tip. Whenever there is a double negative, it becomes a plus. So if you ever see a situation where 2 negatives are directly beside each other, as we see here, that will be known as a plus. Think about the double negative, like if you said, she never, let's see how I can say this, a double negative. She never doesn't like chicken. Okay? If she never doesn't like chicken, then that means she does like chicken. Okay? It's a double negative. So double negatives always cancel out to be a positive. Okay? Now, let's look at our problem where we see the 2 negatives beside each other. Alright? So, we have 6, negative 5. Here's what that is going to turn into. Because it's a double negative, it's going to turn into, if you guessed it, 6 plus 5. And we know that a positive plus a positive is going to give us the positive number 11. Okay? If we want to show our work and draw the pictures, we would get that same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 11 positives, so our answer is positive 11. Let's look at another problem, okay? We have -3 minus -9. We have this double negative right beside each other, okay? Keep in mind that just because this negative is in front of the 3, this does not apply to our double negative rule. This negative is associated with the 3, so we're going to leave it connected to the 3. The only thing that will change here is in the center. Because we have a double negative, we know that that changes into a positive. So we'll rewrite this problem, -3 plus 9. Then we will draw our pictures. We have 3 negatives, and we have 9 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to circle my 0 pairs. Cancel that out. Cancel that out. Cancel that out. What do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My answer is going to be positive 6. Okay? Alright. Now, let's look at number 6. Okay? Let's skip to number 6. Now, these two problems may look similar, but as you can see, they're not. Okay? Here we have a double negative, okay? So that means we need to rewrite this problem as -6 plus 1, okay? Please keep in mind that this is not a double negative. This is not what we mean by double negative because we don't have 2 negatives right beside each other. This, however, is a double negative in which we would change it to this plus. So, with that being said, we'll draw out our picture. We got 6 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 positive, 1 0 pair, leaving us with 5 negatives. So our answer is going to be -5. Now, let's go ahead and solve this problem over here. Remember that if we just have -6 and -1, we're going to look at it as adding a negative, and we're going to put this plus symbol right here. And then rewrite our problem, -6 plus parentheses -1. It's going to be very important that you keep this in parentheses, okay? Now we're going to draw out our picture. We got 6 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and then one additional negative. If we count what's left, we know that we are left with -7. And that's going to be our final answer. So hopefully these problems have helped you to see how we're going to handle our quote-unquote subtracting integers problems. What I want you to do is do the practice problems, then get your work checked by Ms. Fersner, and then we will move on. See ya!